Revenge films.
My name is Nancy Smith. I live together with my husband, Kevin, and we don't have any children yet. I did eventually want to have children someday, but I wasn't in a rush. Both my husband and I were still in our late 20s, so we had both thought that we could wait a little bit longer. That's why, until we decided we were ready to have kids, the two of us were both going to work to save up money so that if and when we have children, we wouldn't run into any financial trouble. I didn't have any worries about my husband. Our married life was smooth sailing, both personally and financially. Or, so I thought. That was all until one day I noticed that my husband was speaking a lot less than usual, and he was quiet. It worried me. Even whenever I tried to talk to him or ask him a question, he would reply with an empty answer, and it felt like he wasn't in the conversation at all. I was wondering if something might have happened. That day, I went and took a bath like I normally do, and then when I stood up to shower as I was washing my hair, I felt my back suddenly get freezing cold. And then in the very next moment, I felt a firm hand grab me by the neck and wrap around my neck, and with extreme force, my neck was being squeezed. I tried to scream out for help, but because there was such a strong hand around my neck and it was squeezing so tightly, I couldn't let out a voice at all. But even still, as I was trying to move around and break free, the shower was running water, and it washed all the soap off my face. When I opened my eyes, I saw that my husband was there, and it was his hand that was around my neck. However, the moment he made eye contact with me, it seemed like he came back to his senses. He immediately let go of the hand that was around my neck, and he started apologizing profusely to me in a state of panic. When I came out of the shower, he got down on his knees and apologized to me. When I asked him what had happened and why he did that, he told me that something didn't go well for him at work, and he had a hallucination because of it. I had sensed that my husband was struggling with his mental health, and because he was apologizing so desperately, I wasn't able to push him any further on the subject. I decided to leave that incident and try to move on, but ever since that day, I was so afraid of my husband that I wasn't able to sleep at night anymore. I started to worry that while I'll be sleeping at night, there was a chance that my husband might try to strangle me again, and I wasn't able to sleep anymore. And so I started to tell a small lie to my husband that I was working overtime, and instead I borrowed the break room at my company and would sleep there after work. If my husband was struggling so much with his mental health that he would try to strangle me like that, I spoke to him that maybe we should go and see a specialist about it at least once. I tried to talk to him about this multiple times, but my husband would simply insist that he was fine now and refused to go seek any form of treatment. No matter how many times I would try to encourage him to just go once, if my husband wasn't going to agree to it and go to the hospital himself, there was nothing that I could do. I felt like I had no other choice but to continue on with these sleepless nights. But ever since that incident, my husband had actually returned to normal. As the day went on, I started to feel more safe. Around the time that 2 years had gone by, I was finally able to go back to my old life without any worries. That is, until one day. My husband and I were relaxing at home watching TV together when the show that we were watching had a husband and wife get into a fight. Then my husband turned to me and said,
"Because we're a happy couple, it's a good thing that we don't fight like that. But remember that time that I strangled you a few years ago? Your eyes went wide and your face almost looked like that. It was so ugly, it was hilarious."
And then my husband started laughing. Without thinking, my mind went blank. Just thinking about that day was horrifying. That day was beyond traumatizing for me, and then I spent so many sleepless nights after that, and how much I had to try to force myself to fall asleep on the smelly, stiff mattress in the break room at my company. Even though now, 2 years later, that trauma was finally starting to feel lighter, when my husband said those words, I could feel the anger start boiling inside of me. On top of all that, even after what he had done to me, at that time, my husband never ended up telling me what exactly had happened at work or what hallucination he had until this day. And yet this time my husband had turned to me and was laughing at me like this, and I couldn't believe that he would say something so awful to me. But when I thought about it, if I try to bring up that conversation again and anger him, I realized that there was a chance he might try to strangle me again. I was so terrified that I wasn't able to say anything back to him in the moment. That's how traumatized and scared I still was. The next day, when I woke up, I was still bothered by my husband's words. When I was outside, one of my friends, whose husband was working at the same company as my husband, bumped into me in town and spoke to me. And then the first thing she said to me was, "Was everything okay after what happened?" I was a little bit shocked by that question, and I tried to act dumb, like I didn't know what she was talking about. So I tried asking her, and then she replied, "Oh, you know what I'm talking about. When your husband lost $50,000 on cryptocurrency 2 years ago, he was having a really hard time. But I heard that these days he's gotten back on his feet, and you two seem to be doing well, so I guess everything worked out in the end?" That was what she said to me, but I still had no idea what she was talking about. For the time being, I decided to play it off, but when I thought back to 2 years ago, my husband had spoken to me like something bad had happened to him at work. But if it was about cryptocurrency, that would mean that he was actually doing it on his own time. He had put in too much money and lost too much money. And then at the same time that I understood that, I started to have a feeling that I knew why he came and tried to strangle me. It must be in that moment of panic, my husband was planning on killing me and then collecting the life insurance money on my death. However, when he came back to his senses, he must have realized that even if he were to kill me and he would be able to pay back all of the money that he'd lost, eventually he would get caught for my death, and that's probably why he gave up on it. But at the end of the day, that's not what happened. So in that case, I was starting to wonder how he was able to pay back all of the losses that he had created. But then it crossed my mind that we had a separate savings account. I ran home, and just as I had dreaded, I saw that a whopping $50,000 was missing from that account. That money was saved up together so that we wouldn't have any troubles whenever we decided to have children in the future. There was also savings in there from before I got married to him, money that I had saved up slowly for so long. And to find out that he had not only used that money behind my back for cryptocurrency that he had started behind my back, on top of all that, he had tried to strangle me and kill me. I felt like there was no way I could be together with my husband anymore, and I decided to get a divorce. Now that that was decided, I decided to confront my husband that night. I pulled out the bank book for that account, and I asked him what happened to that money in that account. At the same time, I told him that I knew that he must have used that money to cover the losses that he had created out of cryptocurrency. When I confronted him about this, I was shocked that my husband showed no signs of remorse. Instead, he started laughing and trying to brush it off.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I was planning on giving that back to you eventually, but it's fine. We can just wait longer until we have a kid anyway, right?
That was his response, but I knew that he hadn't even tried to give back a single penny in the last 2 years, so I didn't know what he was saying. I didn't think I could stay with a husband like this any longer, and I flew right out of the house. Everything moved smoothly from there. Luckily, my company had company housing that was used for employees that came from afar, so I explained my situation to the company, and they immediately prepared an apartment for me there. I decided not to go back to that house, and in order to divorce my husband, I consulted a lawyer. During that time, my husband contacted me multiple times, saying that it was all in the past anyway, and that we could just save up that money again. He was spitting out convenient words for himself. However, I didn't have a millimeter of love left for my husband. And then a few days later, I was too scared to face my husband alone, so I had the lawyer join, and we met my husband to have him sign the divorce papers and to collect a settlement fee for the amount of money that he took from me, as well as for trying to kill me. I collected $150,000 from him, but then my husband was furious and started to throw a tantrum. He tried to lunge towards me, but thankfully the lawyer stood in between us and calmly explained to him that if he were to attack us, he was going to have to pay even more of a settlement fee. That stopped my husband. However, he was probably still furious, and he continued.
We're a married couple, so that money is also my money. What's so wrong with spending?
Even though he said that, it was the two of us that had saved together, and the majority of that was actually my savings. I was starting to think that maybe his mind had been replaced, and I was over it. But thanks to the lawyer being there, after that my husband ended up agreeing to the divorce. And even though the settlement fee would be paid in installments, he said he would pay it. At that moment, I felt like I was finally free from my husband, and I was relieved from the bottom of my heart. Then, after that, I went back to the friend that told me about my husband, and I explained to her that I actually didn't know anything about that money, and I told her what happened 2 years ago. My friend was shocked, and at the same time as being worried and relieved that I was okay, she was also furious that my husband would do that behind my back. And within that day, she had told her husband about it, and the news spread throughout my husband's company. As a result, everybody started to distance themselves from him at work. The story also got into the ears of the directors, and they decided that they wouldn't be able to trust having an employee that would strangle their own wife and try to kill them, and apparently he was quietly fired. He probably thought this was bad, and he contacted me multiple times, begging me to say that I made up that story. But obviously, there's no way that I would do that. We were already divorced, so as long as he was going to pay that settlement fee, I don't care what kind of hell he falls into, and if anything, I want that to happen to him. From there, my ex-husband tried to find a new job, but people found out about the reason why he was fired and what he had done to me, and he wasn't able to get into a company in this area. I heard a rumor that he's working multiple part-time jobs, but now he's living in a rundown apartment, and his hair and clothes are a mess, and he's living a life of poverty. He has quite the amount to pay in fees to me, so he probably won't be able to live a normal life for any foreseeable future. But since he tried to kill me for such selfish reasons, I think he got what he deserved.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.